Dr. Advait has covered half of the systems. So I'll be covering remaining systems in physiology, that is cardiovascular, central nervous system, special senses, endocrines, and reproductive system. Obviously, it is difficult to cover everything in 1 hour lecture, and it is not possible. But this lecture or this activity, I'll thank to MUHS staff because they have designed such an activity for students, as it is very important to revise the topics. Now, this activity is not giving all the information and all the knowledge that is required, but it will give you the tips and tricks to study and to approach for the exam. As Dr. Advait has given you the overview of the theory paper of physiology and biochemistry. So this is the same thing in this slide, section A, B, and C, MCQs, section B, physiology, and section C, biochemistry. Now here, the thing is, all questions are compulsory. You have to attempt all the questions. Then 3 different types of questions are there: MCQ, SAQ, that is short answer question, and LAQ, that is long answer question, which is for 10 marks. SAQ is for 3 marks. Now the approach for each type of question is different. You cannot write SAQ like an LAQ and LAQ like an SAQ. Okay, so, but the overall pattern, if you see, it is student friendly, and the system for passing is easy. Can easily pass the exam if you know the tricks. Now the approach for each type of question, as Dr. Advait has covered for MCQ, you have to have thorough reading of the textbooks for solving MCQs. The concept should be clear, because the question may be framed in such a way there could be a twist in the framing the question, and if you know the concept, you can answer it. Now all MCQs you have to attempt because there is no negative marking. SAQs, now here the questions, they are based on a small part of the topic. For example, full hormone is not asked, but only actions of the hormone will be asked. Or the questions are framed in such a way that the answer is small, like enumerate few things, make a list of the mechanisms for regulation of blood pressure, or classification, maybe classification of receptors, factors affecting, like for example, factors affecting GFR, or a well-labeled diagram. So commonly a question is asked only on diagram, where you're not supposed to write everything about the topic, only draw a neat labeled diagram. So for example, JJ apparatus is asked, or lung volumes and capacities, the graph for lung volumes and capacities is asked, or the neuromuscular junction is asked. So these are some common questions on which only diagram can be asked as a question. Now here, the answer should be such that it should be small enough and the point should be enough to justify 3 marks. So don't write everything and anything that you know about the topic. Justify 3 marks. Then LAQ, here the weightage is 10 marks. So the content of the answer should be big enough to justify 10 marks. And the answers, it should include, although if it is not asked in the description, still you should include the introductory part of the topic. If there are some definitions, then go to the main content of the answer and draw diagrams wherever necessary. And don't forget to include the applied aspect, even though it is not asked in the question. Okay, this applies to the SAQ as well. Wherever possible, you add applied aspect. Now, while writing the answers, you have to do time management. So for time management, if you keep on writing everything descriptive, it will not be possible to cover everything and you will be short of time. So in short time and short writing, if you want to give more information, make use of charts, tables, flow charts, and make use of diagrams instead of writing the description. The diagram should be well labeled, and while writing the answer, highlight the important points or headings, and you should write in a neat and readable handwriting. Okay, this makes the presentation very pleasant and the checking of the answers becomes very easy. So this is, I think this is the most important slide as far as the approach for writing the answers is concerned. Then the theory part, there is the lot many slides are there. I'll be going quickly through some of the slides. I'll be explaining few slides. So going ahead to the first system, that is cardiovascular system. So cardiovascular system, I have included the common questions in every system. Now cardiovascular system, the common questions are long answer questions commonly asked, which I have listed here: blood pressure regulation, cardiac cycle, cardiac output. SAQs like ECG, conducting system of the heart rate regulation, properties of cardiac muscle, cardiovascular changes during exercise, coronary circulation. So there could be a few other questions as well. I have included frequently asked questions in university. Okay, so I will be going through all these questions as far as possible. So in a sequence, first, let us go to the structure of the heart. As we all know, it is having three layers: epicardium, myocardium, endocardium. And first, we should know the structure of the heart so that we can understand the properties. Okay, so elongated cardiac muscle fibers with a centrally placed nucleus and branching and joining with adjacent fibers. Now this joining with fibers makes it a functional syncytium. All cardiac muscle fibers, they are connected to each other and they act as a single unit, right? So similar to skeletal muscle, actin myosin filaments are present and there are light and dark bands because it's a striated muscle. So this is the appearance of the cardiac muscle cells. And before going to the properties, we should know what is a nerve supply to the heart. Even though all the nerves to the heart, they are cut, still heart will continue to beat. But still it is having the nervous supply with autonomic nervous system, which includes sympathetic and parasympathetic. And this stimulation or this nerve supply is to modify the activity of the heart. Sympathetic will increase the force of contraction, rate of contraction. Parasympathetic will have opposite action. Okay, parasympathetic comes from the vagus, right and left vagus nerves, mainly supplying the SA node and AV node. Sympathetic nerves, they are coming from superior medial and inferior cervical ganglia. Going ahead. So these are the properties of the cardiac muscle. Properties, when we are learning, we always compare it with the skeletal muscle and smooth muscle. Okay, so here autorhythmicity, excitability, conductivity, contractility, all are non-law, long refractory period and beneficial effect. These properties are included under cardiac muscle. So autorhythmicity, because heart is able to generate its own impulses, and the pacemaker for the heart is SA node. Okay, the action potential in case of SA node is special as discussed by Dr. Advait sir. So this is the pacemaker potential in case of SA node, and this is basically because of the leaky sodium channels in the tissue. Then another property, the excitability, is the ability to respond to a stimulus by generating an action potential, excitation. Okay, the type of action potential in cardiac muscle, this is called as a plateau potential. This is different from the skeletal muscle because this is a characteristic feature, that is plateau. Okay, and the phases are also described as phase 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is depolarization, this part, then initial rapid repolarization, plateau, and repolarization. Fourth phase is resting membrane potential. Conductivity is conduction of the impulse on the surface of the heart. So it is because of the gap junctions which are present between the cells, easy movement of ions. Then contractility, the ability to contract in response to excitation. It is because of the actin myosin filaments which are present in the muscle. Cardiac muscle also obeys the Frank-Starling's law, which whenever the muscle is stretched, there is stronger contraction. That is a statement of the Frank-Starling's law. Okay, and elongation or stretching of the fibers occurs whenever ventricle is filled with blood. Okay, more the filling, more stretching of the muscle and stronger contraction. Okay, so this is how Frank-Starling's law is obeyed in case of cardiac muscle, and this is within physiological limits. Then there is long refractory period. When you compare with skeletal muscle, refractory period of cardiac muscle is 250 milliseconds, while in skeletal muscle it is 50 milliseconds. So this is helpful in case of heart because it prevents tetanus, it prevents fatigue, and it allows time for the heart chambers to fill during the diastole. Okay, it is very important to get fill up because heart is a pump. Then all or none law is definitely followed by cardiac muscle, and beneficial effect when the repeated stimulation is applied, the force of contraction increases for the next stimulus. So this is beneficial effect. So these are all the properties of cardiac muscle. Going ahead, we have to see the origin and spread of cardiac impulse. So there is a special system for conduction in case of heart, that is junctional tissue of the heart or conducting system of the heart. So what is the purpose of this system? Rapid conduction and rhythmical generation of electrical impulse. So generation of the impulse is done by almost all parts, but mainly it is the SA node because it is having the highest velocity. It is a pacemaker, and remaining parts of the conducting system, they include, so this is SA node, then these connecting pathways, that is internodal pathways, AV node, bundle of His, then it divides in the septum into right and left bundle branches, and then further divides into multiple branches. Those are Purkinje fibers. Okay, all parts of the conducting system have different velocities, different functions, and designed for different things. Okay, so here SA node in the right atrium, it basically produces the rhythm. The velocity is 70 to 80 per minute. So this is the pacemaker potential, which we have already discussed. So this unstable RMP in case of SA node, it is called as pacemaker potential. Then between SA node and AV node, there are internodal pathways with conduction velocity 1 meter per second. Then AV node, now this is the slowest part of the conducting system where the velocity is 0.05 meter per second. So this causes a delay of 0.1 second. So this can also produce the action potential at 50 to 60 per minute. So there are, this AV node is slower. The purpose is this allows the atrial systole to be completed before ventricular systole. Then there is bundle of His. This penetrates the atrioventricular fibrous tissue and enters into the ventricle, and in septum it divides into two branches. Then Purkinje fiber, very fast conducting fiber. These are the comparative velocities of these parts of the conducting system. Now, how the spread of excitation occurs? This is the flow chart in which first the SA node is excited, then it sends to internodal pathways, and internodal pathways, while passing through atria, they excite or depolarize right and left atria. Then the impulse goes to AV node. Then bundle of His and Purkinje fibers. Interventricular septum is depolarized because of these fibers. Then the impulse directly goes to apex of the heart. Then in the ventricular walls, and in the walls also the sequence of excitation is from endocardium to epicardium. Finally, it goes to the base of the heart. Okay, so same thing can be shown in the diagram here. As you can see here, how atria are excited and ventricles are excited. So it begins here in SA node. This yellow part indicates spread of excitation. Now it's going to AV node. Meanwhile, it has excited both the atria. Then it has entered the septum. Now the septum is fully depolarized and inner part of the wall of the ventricles is depolarized. This is the apex that is depolarized. Finally, this base part of the heart is depolarized. Okay, and repolarization starts in the same sequence. You can see here, as the excitation spread is occurring on the heart, the waves of the ECG, they are generated here. Okay, so this is the basis of the ECG waves. So obviously ECG is the applied part here. AV heart block, if the AV node is slow in conduction or totally blocked, it produces AV heart block. Arrhythmias, abnormal rhythms are generated. Those are arrhythmias. Sometimes ectopic pacemaker, other than SA node, some other tissue is taking over as a pacemaker. So that is ectopic pacemaker. Then coming to ECG. So these are all short notes. ECG is also a short note. So this is the record of electrical activity of heart. Electrocardiograph is the instrument and electrocardiography is the procedure. So this was developed by William Einthoven. So this heart acts as a dipole. Some parts are negative, some parts are positive. So there is flow of current and that spreads to the surface of the skin, and from where it can be detected with the help of a galvanometer. So ECG machine is like a galvanometer. So this is the principle of ECG. Now recording is done with the help of leads. Two types of leads. Lead is a pair of electrodes, bipolar and unipolar leads. So this in practicals also we have learnt about this various types of leads. Now what is asked in theory is basically the waves of the ECG. Okay, and to read the ECG we have to know the calibrations on the ECG paper. Okay, so recording of the paper is done on the moving strip of paper. The speed of the paper is 25 millimeter per second. So on horizontal axis there is time, that is 1 millimeter is 0.04 second, and voltage vertically 1 millimeter is 0.1 millivolt. With the help of these calibrations we can find out the voltage and duration of each wave. So this is the very important part, the waves of the ECG. As we can see here, the P wave, the initial positive wave, then QRS, this complex, Q initial small negative, then tall positive wave and small negative wave, QRS. So P wave is because of the atrial depolarization, QRS because of the ventricular depolarization, and T wave is because of ventricular repolarization. So you should know the cause of each wave. Plus, there are some segments and intervals as you can see here. PR interval from starting of P wave up to starting of QRS complex. This indicates the AV conduction time. Then there is a ST segment. This is also very important. Normally, ending of S and before the beginning of T, there is a straight line here. This is the ST segment. This is also called as isoelectric segment. Okay, if this is not isoelectric, or if this is not straight, either it has elevated or depressed. So this indicates myocardial infarction. Okay, so these waves, their configuration, their duration, voltage, everything gives us idea about the condition of the heart, and various diseases can be diagnosed. Okay, to write this, there is one more thing that is called as RR interval. Okay, So time interval between two R waves. This helps in calculation of the heart rate. So instead of writing every wave separately, describing it, can make a table, or for your own understanding and learning also, you can make a table like this and can write the each wave, its configuration, the cause of each wave, its duration and amplitude. This gives you better idea about the ECG waves. Similarly, what are the abnormalities related to the waves that can also be included in such a table? Okay, so this is one of the trick to remember or to study in short time. Then there are some intervals, that is PR interval, QT, ST segment, RR interval. So these intervals, what is the definition from where it starts and where it ends? Okay, that is very important. What is the normal duration and what does it indicate? What is the clinical significance? So each interval and each segment can be written like this and easy to remember. Okay, while studying the ECG waves, it is very important to draw the ECG waves in a proportion. Okay, like we'll go back to the diagram. The P wave and T wave, they are not, although their contour is same, they are not same. P wave is shorter and having low voltage as compared to T. Okay, and QRS, if you see, the duration is very small, but the height is very high. Okay, so you have to be proportionate while drawing the diagrams. The next important LAQ is cardiac cycle, and this is the basis of understanding cardiac output, then blood pressure, everything, all the aspects which are related to CVS. First, you have to understand what is cardiac cycle. So the events which are occurring in one beat of the heart, which these are called as cardiac cycle. And if the heart rate you consider 75, the duration of one cardiac cycle becomes 0.8 seconds. So important events, atrial events and ventricular events, atrial systole, atrial diastole, ventricular systole, ventricular diastole. This is a favorite question, I think, for the students. If it comes, they are very happy to write it. The same thing can be given in this diagrammatic manner to show the inner circle showing the atrial events and outer circle showing the ventricular events. Important thing to remember is here atrial systole is small and diastole is long, and ventricular systole 0.3 seconds, diastole 0.5. But here important thing is atrial systole and atrial diastole, they don't overlap. Okay, once atrial systole is over, then only ventricular systole will start. And here the diastole of atrium and ventricle will overlap. So these are the conceptual things that you should remember while writing. Then atrial systole, contraction, and diastole is relaxation. Not much to write here in the atrium. Ventricular systole or ventricular diastole can be asked as a short note. Okay, 3 events in ventricular systole: isovolumetric contraction, maximum ejection, reduced ejection. Initially, both walls are closed, so it is called as isovolumetric contraction. Then ejection starts. So diagram is showing isovolumetric contraction and then ejection. Left ventricle में से aorta में जाएगा और right ventricle में से pulmonary artery. Then ventricular diastole, there are 5 phases of it: protodiastole, isovolumetric relaxation, first rapid filling phase, diastasis, and last rapid filling phase. So all these phases, what is exactly happening in each phase? What is the condition of the walls? Which walls are open? Which are closed? And how is the movement of blood from which chamber it is moving to which chamber? That is important. And the timings where the heart sounds are produced. Okay, so this is ventricular relaxation. So pressure volume changes, sometimes they are asked in cardiac cycle where. So you have to practice this diagram. First draw the ventricular systole starting from here to here. This is systole, and from here isovolumetric relaxation up to this part. This is ventricular diastole. Okay. The pressure will rise during isovolumetric contraction and will go down during isovolumetric relaxation. So this is how is the graph. You have to correlate all the things, what happens to pressure, what happens to volume, and what happens to ECG. Okay, ECG waves are produced before the contraction in the uh, respective part of the chamber. Okay, and then the heart sounds which are heard here during isovolumetric contraction, first heart sound is produced because of the closure of the AV walls. Second heart sound is heard at the beginning of isovolumic relaxation, when there is closure of semilunar walls. Then third heart sound is produced when there is initial rapid filling phase, and the fourth heart sound when there is last rapid filling phase. Okay, so 4 heart sounds can be shown here along with the graph. When heart fails as a pump, that is cardiac failure. Cardiac catheterization can also be included in applied part. Then heart rate is a small topic which is important for theory as well as practical. So as I always say that blood and CVS, these two systems are very important in both theory as well as practical, because in practical clinical examination, it is all based on cardiovascular system. So normal heart rate is 60 to 90 per minute. I'll quickly go through this. Main regulating factors for heart rate: neural, hormonal, and local mechanisms. So I'll go to the mechanisms. Nervous regulation is through sympathetic and parasympathetic system, and few reflexes like Bain-Briggs and Mary's reflex. Hormonal regulation is through adrenaline, noradrenaline, which increase the heart rate by acting on the SA node. Then some local factors like metabolites, adenosine, lactic acid, they also stimulate the SA node to increase the rate. And other factors like temperature, increase in the temperature increases heart rate. So I'll just go ahead in this topic. Should know the variations. This is asked in the theory viva as well as in the practicals when you are doing pulse examination. What are the conditions when the heart rate is increased? What are the conditions when the heart rate is decreased? You should know the physiological as well as pathological causes. Then cardiac output, it is the amount of blood pumped by each ventricle per minute. Definition is very important. Amount is 5 to 6 liters per minute. Along with this, few other terms like cardiac index and stroke volume you should know. Then control of cardiac output, very important. First, you should know it's a product of heart rate and stroke volume. So these two factors will decide the cardiac output, heart rate and stroke volume. Heart rate, just now we have seen what are the factors which are controlling heart rate. Now stroke volume, how it is decided? Stroke volume is the amount of blood pumped in one beat. So this stroke volume is controlled by two things. One is the venous return to the heart, other is force of contraction of the heart. So venous return is the quantity of blood flowing from the veins into the ventricle into the atrium each minute. It is also 5 liters per minute. So what are the factors which determine venous return? 5 factors generally we describe, maybe 5 to 6 factors. One is the right atrial pressure. Other is the blood volume. More is the blood volume, more is the venous return. Venomotor tone. Sympathetic nerves, they supply the veins and that decides the tone of the veins. Respiratory pump. During inspiration, more venous return. And muscle pump, the 5th factor. The contraction of the skeletal muscles in the leg, they squeeze the veins and they pass the blood towards the heart. So this increases venous return. So 5 factors which control the venous return. So venous return can be asked as a short note. Then contractility of the heart is another factor, along with that is the force of contraction. Force of contraction increases with sympathetic stimulation. Secondly, by the Frank-Starling's law, as we have described initially, the initial length of the muscle fiber, if it is more, then the force of contraction will be more. And thirdly, the nutrition of the heart. It is through the coronary arteries which are supplying the heart. Now coming to next important topic, that is blood pressure. Blood pressure regulation is asked frequently as LAQ. You should know the definition, you should know the variations, then you should know the mechanisms, various mechanisms controlling blood pressure. So definition everybody knows, lateral pressure exerted by blood on the wall of the arteries while flowing through it. Now there is systolic pressure, diastolic pressure. You should know the definition and normal range. There is pulse pressure, mean arterial pressure, basal pressure. So these definitions you should know. Then there are variations in the blood pressure regulation. I'll quickly move to the regulation part. So before that, you should know the factors affecting. Now conceptually, this slide is important because main factors which influence blood pressure are cardiac output, peripheral resistance, and blood volume. Blood pressure is the product of cardiac output and peripheral resistance. So systolic pressure depends on cardiac output. Diastolic pressure depends on peripheral resistance. These two important concepts you must know. And blood volume also affects in long term the blood pressure. And the main important factor which affects the peripheral resistance is the diameter of the blood vessel, which is having inverse relation. Now to understand all the mechanisms, this is very important. Systolic blood pressure depends on cardiac output, diastolic blood pressure depends on peripheral resistance, and cardiac output depends on venous return depends on blood volume. If you know these things, all the mechanisms you will be able to understand. And two concepts, one is vasoconstriction, which increases blood pressure, vasodilatation, which decreases blood pressure. If you know these things, then while writing the mechanisms, you will not get confused. Now the classification of mechanisms for regulation of blood pressure: short term, intermediate term, long term. So short term acts within seconds to minutes, intermediate term acts within minutes to hours, and long term regulation acts within hours to days. Now in the question commonly classification is asked and any one mechanism is asked, like baroreceptor, or in long term renin-angiotensin mechanism is asked. Okay, so I'll cover these important mechanisms. So various mechanisms are acting in various time, like within seconds, these baroreceptor, chemoreceptor, and CNS ischemic response, they are working, and remaining mechanisms, they are working little late. So baroreceptors are situated in the aortic arch and in the carotid sinus, from where the nerves which are supplying the baroreceptors, these are glossopharyngeal and vagus nerves. Okay, so they are stimulated by changes in the blood pressure. The afferent nerves are called as buffered nerves. The center for this reflex is vasomotor center, and it works through sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves. Effector organs include heart and the blood vessels. So how does it work? This is a very simplified format. Increase in the blood pressure increases the stimulation of baroreceptors, causes inhibition of vasomotor center and stimulation of vagal center. There is vasodilatation in the blood vessels and there is decrease in the heart rate. Both of these decrease the blood pressure. So this is how we should write in the manner of flow charts. Now in case of baroreceptors, increase in the blood pressure stimulates the baroreceptors. On the other hand, decrease in the blood pressure will inhibit the baroreceptors. Okay, so it can work in both directions when there is increase and decrease in the blood pressure. Okay, what is the advantage of baroreceptors? It works within few seconds and maintains the blood pressure with changes in posture. And what is the limitation? The range for working is 60 to 80 millimeter of mercury, and these receptors get adapted to chronic changes in the blood pressure. Directly, I'll move to the long-term mechanism, that is renin-angiotensin-aldosterone mechanism. Now, whenever there is drop in blood pressure, please remember where you are starting the flow chart, where you are starting the mechanism. Most of the mechanisms here, in case of renin-angiotensin particularly, whenever there is fall in the blood pressure, this mechanism is activated. Okay, so it releases renin from the kidney, and renin converts angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1. Now this is occurring in the liver. Then angiotensin 1 is converted to angiotensin 2. This is occurring in lungs because the enzyme ACE is present in the lungs. Angiotensin 2, it directly acts on the blood vessels to cause vasoconstriction. This increases blood pressure. Secondly, angiotensin 2 acts on the adrenal cortex and causes release of aldosterone. Aldosterone is the hormone which acts on the kidney and increases absorption of salt and water. So increased absorption of salt and water will increase the blood volume. Blood volume will increase the blood pressure. So it acts for long term, means the action remains for long time. So this is how, this is just a diagram in short flow chart. You can have a lot of description. Then there are alterations in blood pressure. This is the applied part, hypotension and hypertension. So coming to next system. So cardiovascular system I have done in little detail, and other systems I'll just touch the important parts and we'll move ahead. So central nervous system. Common questions in central nervous system: ascending tracts, descending tracts can be asked as long question. The sensations carried by these tracts.